Welcome in to, dare I say, yet another special edition of Sport Ball. I'm your boy Sam. With me, as always, are Kyle and Seth, my two frenemies. And it's NBA, NBA, NBA. If you only like the NFL, you can get the fuck out. Okay?
If you only like professional handball, also get the fuck out.
All we're doing today, baby, is previewing the NBA. I almost said NFL. All we're doing today is is previewing the NBA playoffs. It's playoff time, baby. Kyle, this is what we wait for all year long.
Do-do-do-do. Is that how it goes? Is that the new one? Is that the old one? Is that the new
Were you
one?
trying to sing the final countdown?
Oh, hey, do something for me real quick.
Okay.
Send me a text message direct to my line.
Who else? How else would I do
Direct to line one.
it? Okay. Does that have to say anything in particular?
No, anything you'd like.
I know what
Okay.
this is going to be.
All right. I sent it.
We couldn't really hear it.
You couldn't hear that?
Oh
I
yeah. You
couldn't.
you said my ringtone, right? Let me try it
Do it one more
again.
time.
I feel like the Zoom
It sounded like a
recognizes
sneeze.
that it's not a human and is like filtering
Oh,
it out.
maybe I'll
Wait.
just edit
So
it in.
tell
Yeah,
our
there you
listeners
go.
what your ringtone is for me.
So we had one of the best calls probably in NBA history on the last day of the season. For those that don't watch meaningless games, um, God, who was that? It was who was in Boban was shooting free throws. Who were they playing?
It
I
was
think they were playing the
Rockets,
Jazz.
Clippers. Oh,
Were they playing the Jazz? Whoever. But it was fourth quarter, I believe. Opposing team misses two free throws in a row. The entire stadium gets everyone at the game got a free chicken sandwich. So, Boba, you should really just watch the clip. Maybe I'll add a link
you should.
in our description
Oh my
to the
God, have we ever
call.
done that?
No, this will be a first. But just legendary. Boban
He,
missed the first on accident because he can't
yeah,
shoot free throws. And then he
correct.
hyped up the crowd and intentionally missed the second one. And I'm pretty sure he said something along the lines of, I do this, or something like that. I don't know exactly.
You're right.
And
It
then there
was
was
the
a
Clippers.
legendary call of,
Yeah.
oh,
For the record, I was
Savannah the
correct.
Temple. He gave him chicken.
For the record, I was correct. It was against the Clippers.
Yeah, because it was his
I never
ex
doubted you
team.
once.
It was his ex team. He wanted to get back to the fans.
Rockets ended up winning 116-105, so his two missed free throws were inconsequential.
I
All
mean,
the
it was a
others,
meaningless
if they had
game.
lost, it would have been inconsequential regardless. But
Correct. And that's why we love him. From John Wick villain to hero of basketball fans everywhere. All right. Let's get down to business. We're gonna preview.
Let's get
Let's
down to
get down to
business.
business. Mm, mm. We're gonna preview the NBA playoffs. We know every series except for the 1-8. So we'll go over every series that we know, and then we'll at the first blush we'll do a little play-in recap and preview of the games yet to come. Let's start in the West. In the West play-in, Lakers beat the Pelicans and Kings beat the Warriors. Uh, Kyle, you and I were of the mind's eye that Zion
I
got
don't have
injured
one.
with Zion got injured with 2 minutes left. We thought maybe it was feeling like the Pelicans were going to win that game if he did get injured, right?
I think Pelicans had it in the bag. That was that was a such a welcome sight. There's right. We had such high expectations of Zion coming into the league. It's been unfortunate the first couple years with the injuries he's had, and he finally has a rather healthy season, eligible for awards. Doesn't seem like he's probably going to make an All NBA team like I had hoped and bartered for. However, that was on Sam's behalf too, and he argued against me that he should not make it when he would have won money. Um, not my money though. Never. I
Because
never
I'm
wrong.
sure our arguments would swing the voters in the media.
I sent Verno a note. But yeah, dude. I mean, what was he? Yeah, 40, was it 40 points with 3 minutes left in the game or just under 3 minutes left? Hits the game tying shot, comes down, not knee, his I guess what did they call it? A
Hamstring.
hamstring strain. He's out for the next playing game. They ultimately lose for those that didn't watch. But it was just really a Zion masterclass. I feel like that game. He just completely dominated.
I
Yeah,
feel like that's just a microcosm of the Zion experience his whole career.
so frustrating, right?
Yeah,
You can
it's just
see
so
it.
tantalizing. There's moments where you think no one on earth could do what he's doing or stop him right now, but he's never been able to sustain it without getting injured
But the thing is, he
or
sustained it
even
all
one
year,
playoff.
and then the most meaningful game of his finally in his career.
Yeah,
It's so
I
it's
mean, it's like what would be the most tantalizing thing possible, and that's what he does.
Next year he'll
Like
be
the
in the NBA
Vikings.
Finals, Game 7.
hey,
Yeah.
I feel like we got to give props though to Willie Green. I feel like it had to be tough having, it's a tough decision to make. I feel like when it's such an important game to sit the two of
Mm,
the three highest paid players on your team
hmm
late in the fourth quarter, and especially in crunch time. They just didn't have it. Like
No,
Ingram, it's unfortunate too. He comes back, he gets one game in on limited minutes,
right.
has a really terrible play-in game, and then McCollum was just asked too. But props to Willie Green. I mean, he put the best unit out there to face the Lakers in crunch time, and they were doing it. They made that comeback. They tied the game up, and then that Zion injury just ultimately, I think, was the
Nailed the
that and
coffin.
not necessarily, but it was close to it. That was the tap in, and then the full swing of the hammer was that D'Angelo Russell three in the corner. But they have another shot. I don't know if they win without Zion. So
We will discuss that in a second. The Lakers also, with this win, get a date with the Nuggets in the playoffs, so we will discuss in our series previews. A rematch of last year's conference finals. Very, very juicy. The Kings, meanwhile, beat the Warriors in the late game in the West play-in. Boy, Seth, could this be the end of an era? I mean, Klay Thompson was 0 for 10, and I don't want to just talk about the Warriors and not give any credit to the Kings, but that's what I'm going to do. I don't want to, but it's
Against my
inevitable.
wishes.
Klay went 0 for 10 for the field. Could that be his last game with the Warriors?
dude, absolutely atrocious showing, atrocious coaching job by Steve Kerr. You know I was going to go here.
Of course. I mean,
I,
Steve
I I think I
Kerr.
asked Seth actually for a reply, but yet he can't help
Steph,
himself.
take it away. Tell us why it was so bad.
I mean, I'll let Kyle rant about uh what is he? 8-time champion Steve Kerr?
And
Does he
coach,
count as a
not
player?
fuck that. He
But
was
I mean,
also carried
4-time
there too.
champion coach.
He was
There we go.
carried as a player and he was carried as a coach.
um,
It's the
I'll
Pete
let Kyle
Carroll
rant about
NBA.
Steve, but I mean, obviously, you hate to see that kind of game happen for Klay, especially as you alluded to, it could be his last game with the Warriors. The buzz from around the team seems like they want him back. Steve Kerr wants him back. Who knows? It'll all be haggling over money, I think. Obviously, they're not going to pay him what he's been making. So if somebody else is willing to do that, maybe he'll leave. I also feel like he seems like a loyal guy and would maybe make slightly less money in Golden State to be able to stay. Is it an end of an era for the Warriors? Certainly seems like it. I mean, they're going to keep running it back with Steph until he retires. So I guess they'll always have a chance, but they're going to need one of those young players to really blossom even more. I mean, they got more than they could have hoped for this year from Pods, Trace
Mhm.
Jackson Davis, Kaminga, and they were still, a 10 seed. Granted, the West was really strong this year. So, if next year they're about the same, but a couple other teams have some major injuries, they could easily be a 5 seed. But
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's almost like if it is the end of an era, it just feels like that title in 22 makes everything else gravy, right? Like
yeah.
over your beloved Celtics, no less. It's like that
And
was the one they won when KD was gone. when no one thought they would get
Right.
back to the pinnacle of the mountain. Who
And
cares
then
now?
I believe they've now missed the playoffs 3 out of the last 5 years.
Yeah,
And
I
both
think we need
of
to
those
talk
years
about
they
this.
won the finals.
Yeah.
Right.
Lost the
So
finals in 2019, the 2019 season, went 15 and 50 the following season.
Steph was out.
Lost,
Steph was injured,
okay.
but yeah,
Lost 2 play-in games the following year. Didn't make the playoffs. Won the finals. Outlier season. Lost in round 2 last year, and then lost in the play-in this year. I mean, have they
Kyle's
really
about
been
to be
that
like,
great?
Any
was
team
the
would take
entire
that.
Warriors dynasty just variance?
I would kill to have the Chicago Bulls miss the playoffs
The
3 years
Bills.
and then win the finals. Yes. And the Buffalo Bills would kill for that too. Almost any franchise would kill for that kind of stretch. And if it's over, it's over. But I mean, that was not a title they expected to win, so they have that in their back pocket. I would just retire if I was Clay. I know, obviously, I'm not an NBA player with the same juice, but it might be time. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think what we can all agree on is that Steve Kerr's biggest mistake was putting his hopes on the wrong Curry brother.
That's one.
That's correct.
That
Go
sure is
ahead.
one.
Just give me what you feel about Steve Kerr, Kyle.
I've voiced this opinion before, and I just feel a little more validated after this last game. How do you 0 for 10 from the field for Clay? He had played half of the season off of the bench because he wasn't having a good season. He caught a flash in the pan, got back into the starting lineup, had a couple games where he scored 20 plus, and then you decide to roll with them for over 30 minutes in a winner go home game where he wasn't doing absolutely anything. You were getting run out of the gym. I mean, the Kings just weren't missing anything. And you were essentially playing down a man. You were playing 4-on-5 basketball with Clay on the court. You had Pods, who got, I think, like maybe 20 minutes off the bench, who has been a more productive player than Clay all season. Moses Moody was one of the best players on the court for them, and he saw 16 minutes. He might have been like their third highest scorer. I just don't know how you're such a championship level head coach and can't make the right decisions in a win or die game. Like, it's just, again, I feel like, sure, he's won some championships as a head coach, but again, I feel like it has to do with the fact that the team that he walked into.
So
Like, I
who
don't
do you
think
give?
that I don't think they won championships because of Kerr. I think Kerr was able to get a championship ring or some because of the team.
I mean,
mean-
it's always the players that are mostly to blame and to credit for wins and losses in the NBA. We know that. But
Yeah,
if you're
it's
not going
like
to give credit to Kerr, who are you going to give credit to? You don't think Greg Popovich is good? You don't think Phil
That's
Jackson is good?
that's
No,
exactly
I
the
think they're
point
better.
I
I don't
made.
think I don't think Phil Jackson would have kept a player who's 0 for the field on the court playing, especially in the most critical of situations when the fourth quarter when you're down by 14 or whatever it was. I don't think Popovich is going to do that. Like, I think those coaches at least will make the difficult decisions to sit a veteran player and make the best adjustment for their teams. Kerr didn't do that. He doesn't do that. He rode with the old, quote unquote, the old guard all year when it just wasn't working for the most part. They never had an identity. And I think that was the most evident thing too in this game was like, you had some lineups that were working actually. They went on a couple runs, they cut the lead a few times, and then, oh, dead ball, we'll call a timeout. Let's get the old guys back out there. And then Kings just go on another 10 plus run.
I just don't think they have very good players.
I think they
Besides
have a
Steph.
decent set of young players that could have played and should have played more and were more productive in that game, and they weren't given the opportunity.
I mean, I think you could I think it's a fair argument or fair critique to say that he has stuck with his veteran players too long. I think he should get some credit for benching Clay earlier in the season. And,
But that didn't matter.
well, he wanted to see what he had, and he did give those young players a chance to compete. And then,
Not when it mattered most.
and then when Clay started playing well again, He earned his starting spot back, and now it's one game, and it's okay. Maybe he should have pulled the plug, but I think it's also, you could say, well, let's say he just benched Clay for the whole second half, and then Moody came in or Pods came in and they missed a bunch of shots and the Warriors lost. And then the storyline is, oh, Clay Thompson is an all-time great scorer because he had one bad
Was.
half. You're going to bench him for the second
He has
half.
not
And
been that he hasn't been that formidable of a scorer the last 2 or whatever years it's been. He's not the Clay that we're used to. He hasn't been for a while.
yeah, I
We
mean,
just praised Willie Green for making the right call by benching the veteran players that weren't performing well in a winner almost go home game.
he's not himself like he was before, but he still shot 38% from three this year. So it's not like he's just trash. I'm just saying I think it was a defensible decision. And I think the broader argument that you make about, well, Steve Kerr's not a good coach because he only won championships because he had star players could be made about every coach in NBA history who's won multiple championships. So honestly, my biggest complaint about Steve Kerr is that he hasn't kicked Draymond Green off the team already. So
Amen.
That's another huge one. I mean, that's another huge thing though. Like there's been so many decisions that haven't been made correctly, in my opinion, that I just can't reward him for being the so-called great coach that he is when I think these other great coaches that you mentioned and that other people mentioned would have made those decisions, would have made those difficult decisions
All right, we need to move on because the Warriors aren't even in the playoffs, and this is a playoff preview pod. We
because
can't
they
spend more
suck and
time
they're
on this.
dead.
However, that it is an important topic because this could be the end of an era there. Kings are playing the
Good.
Pelicans now for the final West playing game. The Kings are favored by 1.5. Seth, no Zion for this game. Do you think the Kings pull it off without Zion on the other side?
I mean, it's interesting because the Pelicans are a team that has a lot of high level talent, not necessarily a huge amount of depth top to bottom, but they've got like scorers. So do they have another Zion? No, but do they have people who could fill in for his scoring? Yeah, I mean, you saw them on the brink of a victory in this game, essentially without Brandon Ingram and CJ McCollum. So if they just either one or both of them play like they're capable, they could definitely beat the Kings, especially the Kings themselves are missing some of their key players. So
But
I
they
think
were
it's
only
an
able
even
to do that
matchup.
because of Zion that last game.
You know,
Right.
this works out really well, for the 1 seed OKC, right? Because you're either getting the Pelicans without Zion or you're getting the Kings without Herter and Monk. I mean,
Yep.
you could not ask
I,
for a better matchup if you're the OKC Thunder.
I don't know how much Herter and Monk really matter to the OKC series. It's going to be tough with Sabonis. We all know the biggest problem with OKC is no real big man presence, and that's kind of been their one Achilles
Well, you'd
heel
certainly
to an
prefer the
extent.
Kings without Monk and Herter to the Lakers, though. That's what I'm saying. I
Oh
mean,
yeah, to the
come on
Lakers
now. Those are
definitely.
two
Yeah.
very good options. Let's go to the East now. Let's breeze through this here. The Sixers beat the Heat. Jimmy injured his MCL. Didn't matter though. Still played 40 minutes on a MCL injury that's going to keep him out for weeks now because he's
So
had
it does matter.
the adrenaline wore off. He's like, I can't move, actually, guys. So the Sixers book a date with the Knicks. We'll talk about that in a bit. Another game where you might say, right, Seth, that given that injury, the other team might have won. I mean, Jimmy certainly didn't shoot well down the stretch. Obviously, was hampered by that knee, and the Sixers found a way to win.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I didn't watch the game, so
Excellent. Bulls, meanwhile, beat the hapless Hawks. Kobe, they call him Kobe Him White, put up 42 points, a career high that doesn't count in any annals of history because the stats for the play-in don't count. But we know the truth. We'll talk about the Bulls matchup against the Heat, but Kyle, this leads to an interesting offseason for the Hawks here. Do you think they trade Trae Young?
He's gone.
Does that give your Stogie stamp of approval?
Obviously, I've been a DeJounte fan for all of time.
He's finally learning to say his name right.
Today I showed up to the podcast recording first for the first time, and then Kyle says his name right for the first time. Coincidence? I think not.
No, I
I
mean,
agree with you.
obviously you get more back most likely from Trey, right? But then again, do you? Now that I think about it, you have a more friendly
Somebody.
contract in with Murray, right? So
Somebody will
I
give a
think-
lot for
I
Trey.
yeah,
think
someone's gonna give a lot for Trey.
The
Trey's gone.
Lakers are gonna trade for Trey, and we're gonna think it's gonna solve all their problems, and it won't. We can all see this unraveling before us.
Could be the Spurs.
Could be the
I don't.
Spurs. That'd be
Everyone likes
sick.
that. I don't like that, dude.
What don't you like about that?
They might just
I-
want DeJounte back.
I want Wemby to be watered by a garden caretaker that is only looking out for him and not himself. I want an unselfish gardener.
Here's, I mean, Trey's pretty unselfish. He was what, top 3 in assists per game in the league, was he not?
Well, he wants assists. He wants the credit. He's not going to make the pass that doesn't lead to an assist.
Does that really matter though? You have you have the best 7-footer in the NBA on your team.
I don't know. I'm a Trey hater, and I want Wemby to be free of such designs. Can I get him Darius Garland? How about I get him Darius Garland?
Is this just a down season by Darius, or was last season
Yeah,
the outlier?
yeah.
That's
He's in the
issue.
shadow of Donnie. Get him out of there. We'll talk about the Cavs later. The Bulls are playing the Heat, Kyle. Our Bulls are playing your beloved Heat. The Heat are favored by 1.5, even without Jimmy Butler.
Wow.
And the
Bulls-
Bulls are without Caruso.
Thank you. The Bulls are most likely not going to have Caruso. Is it confirmed he's out?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Sources
no Jimmy,
tell football.
no Jimmy, no Caruso. Kyle, do you think the Bulls pull this off?
If you're watching the YouTube feed, that's all you got to see.
I
If
didn't
you're
even see
not-
what his shirt says. Did it say like "Go Heat"?
It was a Bull shirt.
The opposite.
Yeah, I can think we could pull
I'll
it off.
probably, I'd probably pick the Bulls. But then again, I don't know, man. They just played so well against the Hawks that I said it the other night. You know that they're going to shoot 3 for 35 from 3 and just get completely demolished by the Jimmyless Bulls. It's just what the Bulls do.
Yeah, the Bulls all season have been a tantalizingly good bad team where they'll show up on the right night. You're like, oh, this is the best team in the league. And the next night they lose to like the Pistons. You're like, I guess not.
I think it's an interesting parallel to the other conference soon because I think the Celtics are in similar
Right.
position to the Thunder where, okay, obviously we were going to be fine playing any team, but we avoided the Sixers with Embiid back. They got the 7. And then now we're either going to face Butlerless Heat or the Bulls. And
And you should count
they'll
your
be
days.
licking our chops for either scenario.
Bulls in 4. Kyle,
Just
this
watch
kind
out.
of this kind of almost excuses Seth of the certain downfall and bragging rights that you were gonna have when the Heat beat them in the first round with Jimmy Butler, right?
I know, it's really unfortunate. It's really unfortunate.
It is unfortunate that I won't have those bragging rights when the Celtics would have won regardless. You're right.
Bulls in 4 over the Celtics. All right, let's talk about the actual playoffs. Playoffs. I'm going over the series in order of most interesting to least interesting in my mind, and I will not be taking feedback on my rankings.
You're
so
going
don't
from
even
most
offer
to
it.
least or least to most?
Most to least, because at the end we might not spend much time on it. We'll all be tired by the end. I'm already tired now. Okay, so number 1, the number 3 seeded Timberwolves versus the number 6 Suns. Again, I will not
Dare
be
you.
taking feedback on this being the number 1.
Can I provide you some feedback on that?
you may not. The Suns are a minus 120 favorite for this series on DraftKings. Again, if you'd like to sponsor us, we're here, we're willing, we're waiting, we're ready. I thought this was the most interesting one just because it's kind of like a disaster if either team loses. More so the Suns for sure, because they're all in after the Bradley Beal trade. But also disaster for the T-Wolves sneakily because they have a lot of money to pay Karl Towns and others, and they would be in a little bit of a money bind as well, all in on a team that would have lost in the first round. So think it's a very interesting matchup. You have drop coverage defense on the T-Wolves side versus the mid range of the Suns. Seth, are you going to step up and pick your beloved local home team, Minnesota Timberwolves? I know you are.
Is that even a question?
Well, I formed it as one, yes.
Yeah, of course. The Wolves got this. I mean, I know there's been a lot of hubbub about, well, this is a bad matchup for them. They got so many mid-range scorers. The Suns have kind of thrashed the Timberwolves in the regular season.
3-1, right?
Um, I believe
Or is it
that's
3-0,
correct.
something like that? Yeah.
Um, that being said, I just think the Timberwolves have been the better team all season. I don't trust the Suns. I think the Suns have proven that they're not trustworthy. I think it's not like the Timberwolves only have good interior defenders, like they have very good uh perimeter defenders as well. And so I think ultimately it'll come down to Ant, and Ant has had some pretty bad games against the Suns so far in the regular season, or this year, I should say. So, but I believe enough in Ant himself that he'll break through that and they'll emerge victorious. But I could definitely see it being a 6 or 7 game series.
I agree, Seth. I'm picking Wolves in 6. And I think
Let's go.
this is one of those situations where the record tells you everything you need to know. I mean, the Suns had to claw to get out of the play-in, and the Timberwolves were one of the best teams all year, basically one game off of the 1 seed. And you could say, well, the Suns had a lot of injuries to Beal, Booker was out for a time, but Karl Anthony Towns missed so much time for the T-Wolves, and they kept right on chugging along. I feel like they are who they were in the regular season. They're a dominant defensive team, and I think they get through the Suns team without too much of a problem. And then whoever wins this series just probably gets destroyed by Denver in the next round. What do you think, Kyle? You taking the T-Wolves as well?
I currently have the Suns penciled in, actually.
Make the
Um,
case for me.
just based on what you explained with the drop coverage, I mean, you have a team that notoriously gives up mid-range jump shots, but doesn't let anything happen in the paint. You have a team that absolutely thrives in the mid-range with one of the best mid-range scorers of all time. I don't really care about his age because it really hasn't shown over the course of the year in Kevin Durant. Um, Booker's been great. Beal's turned it on over the last couple weeks, kind of leading into the playoffs. Um, you know, I'm just going to take the more reliable shooting in this one. That's really all it is. I think I have them in 6, so to win it at home.
A little thought exercise. If the T-Wolves lose, do they trade Cat? And then if the Suns lose, what the hell do they do? Does KD ask out? I mean, there could be a lot of offseason ramifications about from this, right, Seth?
Yeah, I kind of doubt it on the Suns side. I just feel like they're so locked in. I mean, you never know with Durant, but at this point, it's like, okay, you really got to make it work here. You can't keep burning bridges and just leaving.
Yeah.
So I don't think the Suns are going to do anything when they lose. Um, I could see a cat trade unless the Timberwolves make it to the conference finals.
Mm-hmm.
Like even if they won this series and then lose to Denver, and it's clear that like yeah, they've made progress, but they're not good enough to compete with the Nuggets. Are they really gonna continue spending, into the second apron when the team's not good enough to compete for a championship? That being said, it's still like a better season than the Timberwolves have had in 20 years if they make it to the second round. So
Right.
I think most likely nothing will change for either of these teams, but I think a cat trade would be more likely than a big move with Phoenix.
Well, especially because, like I said, they were chugging along without him. Maybe you caught a glimpse of what this could be now that
I
Ant
think
is
it
nearing
would
his
be
prime.
I think it would be great for the Timberwolves to trade Cat. I mean, just put Naz Reid into there and
Kyle
maybe
loves
you
that.
can get some good young assets that are cheaper and build to the future, which will be more aligned with Ant and McDaniel's timeline and kind of phase out Gobert over the next 4 years or so. So
Yeah.
that's what I would do, but I doubt they will.
Interesting. It'd be an interesting offseason for both these teams. Kyle, your beloved New York Knickerbockers. They played it out on the last game of the season and said, let us beat the Bulls in overtime and play Dante DiVincenzo 53 minutes for the pleasure of playing the Embiid-led Sixers. And guess what? DraftKings says we can't even call this series. -110 each team. You do the math, they say.
Oh.
Technically, the Sixers are a little favored because the correct series score is Sixers and 7 is the most favorite on DraftKings. But they said we don't really know. Obviously the Sixers are only at this low of a seed because Embiid was injured most of the year. They had the highest winning percentage, I think, even higher than Boston when Embiid was in. Obviously, none of us trust Embiid in the playoffs, though. Kyle, is this the year, perhaps, that Embiid, whom we all hate, actually plays well in the playoffs? Excuses are gone, right? Harden's gone. Ben Simmons is gone. Doc Rivers is gone. He has a better coach. He has Tyrese Maxey, who we know is ready for the moment. Is this the year that he gives us a playoff run, Kyle?
No. Next
I wanted to
question.
hear it from your lips.
You really think I'm going to pick against the Knicks? We have OG back. I think the
says
Knicks
we.
have lost 2 games, maybe, all year when OG and Brunson are in the lineup together. Their defense truly is on another level when he's there. Embiid might be back, but he's not, I don't believe, fully back to that form that he was before he got injured. Was watching some breakdown earlier today, and one thing that the Sixers liked to do before was kind of get Embiid the ball at the top of the key, but in motion, kind of already going towards the rim. They haven't really been doing that too much since he's been back. I don't know if he has that same kind of burst. Obviously, he didn't have a ton of burst anyways, but burst for his size. Ever since coming back from the injury, not being able to do that or do that to the same extent that he was pre-injury, I think is tough. But then on the other side, you have Jalen Brunson, who's just one of the hottest players in basketball, and has been for a majority of the year. Dante, obviously, we know greater than 40% from 3 all year on high volume, on like 12 attempts per game or something crazy like that. Lockdown defender in OG, walking triple double threat, Josh Hart. And Hartenstein's been great too. So I mean, I think it's a tough series. Obviously, you would have much rather played, the who was it that if they would have got the 3 seed, they would have played the Pacers.
The Pacers, yeah.
The basketball gods gotta reward them, right, for gutting it out and playing like true champions would, and not just sitting and trying to tank and trying to play out some random game where even if they got the 3rd seed, who knows what would have happened in the other games. Tibbs said, "Fuck it, we're going all in. We're gonna win. We're gonna go into the playoffs on a high note, and we're gonna dominate."
Knicks in 5. I don't
I
give
think
a
that
shit.
might have
Okay,
been what I picked.
Knicks in 5.
This
They're
might be the
just better.
series that we all agree on the most.
Now I know
I think I
Randall's
might have
out.
picked Knicks in 5.
Yeah, right. I mean, it
Yeah.
just feels right. I know Randall's out, which I don't know.
Doesn't
if you
matter.
mentioned,
He's a
Kyle, but
historic
that's what I was
Yeah,
gonna say.
playoff loser, anyways. So
Maybe it's a little. It's a little.
Ewing theory.
Ewing theory. I mean, he's really bad in the playoffs. He shoots like 28% from the field or something crazy like that. I mean, Josh Hart
Is the
just
Knicks.
slides right in for him and he fits a role, right? Seth, do you think that when the Sixers lose to the Knicks in 5, inevitably,
Will
there
they
will
trade
be
him?
more there will be more excuse making for Embiid because he was just coming off an injury. This wasn't the year.
Yes.
Not from this podcast.
Certainly not. I stopped making excuses for Embiid 4 years ago.
When he was just a glimmer in his mother's eye, I stopped making excuses for him. I mean, I'm starting to think he's like Karl Malone or something. Like he really is really good in the regular season, but he's not a playoff performer.
I mean, I guess we should probably wait to see what happens before we say
We
that.
just said what's
Otherwise,
gonna happen. The
there you
Knicks are gonna win
go.
in 5.
Good point.
It's gonna be it's gonna
Well,
be juicy though. Now, whoever wins that matchup, so this is the 7-2, they get to avoid the Celtics and they get to play the winner of the Bucks Pacers. Let's go to that next. This is another series where DraftKings threw up their hands. They said it's minus 110 either way because they don't know how long Giannis is going to be out. We know he's at least going to be out for the start of the series. People are speculating between 2 and 4 games he might miss. And the Bucks this season, Kyle, are a disgrace to the game of basketball that Dr. Neesmith invented with the peach basket. I mean, they lost 4 of 5 versus this very Pacers team, and they have not been playing well lately. They fired their coach halfway through the season. They've been worse since then. Tell me why I shouldn't pick the Pacers in this series.
I'm picking the Pacers in this series.
That's why.
Yeah. But
so if you
So I
want to be
shouldn't.
right, do the opposite of Kyle.
no, I mean everything you just said. Like, if they have a losing record since Doc took over. You've
So
lost
bad.
arguably, yeah, it's not arguably, it is their best player, but arguably top 3 player in the league, for at least a game. But it doesn't matter the way they play. This is similar to like the Wolves Suns matchup on the other side, where one team's biggest weakness is the other team's greatest strength. And the
Transition.
way that Milwaukee defends is exactly how the Pacers want to play. And then
Yeah.
I don't even know. They haven't even seen the Pacers since they've gotten Siakam either. So that adds a whole nother complexity to this.
Yes.
Like, and notoriously, Doc is a terrible playoff coach too. So you have a team that just sucks anyways underneath him, and they don't have their best player, and you have a terrible playoff coach.
It's funny looking at these rosters. Like, you take out Giannis, right? It's like, think of how much better all the wings are on the Pacers than the Bucks. Like, you have like Neesmith, you have Pascal Siakam, you have Turner at the 5, and then you look over at the Bucks and what is it, like washed up Jay Crowder they're relying on. You know, the
Pat
Derry
Connaughton.
Bird, whatever his name is, that shooter off the bench.
Derry Bird, who plays 5 minutes a game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the athleticism is not there, not the same way the Pacers are. Seth, I'm really trying to get talked out of picking the Pacers. Are
Why?
you picking them as well?
I am picking them as well. Does that talk you out of it?
Yeah, I'm definitely picking the Bucks.
Yeah, we can all 3 be right. Yeah, I think I'm in alignment with Kyle. I also think the Giannis injury, even if he's only out 2 games, I don't think the Bucks will win either of those 2 games. And now they have to win 4 out of 5. I don't really see that. And to me, it just feels like one of those seasons where the Bucks have been trying to tell us who they are this year.
Mhm.
And all we have to do is listen. And they're telling us that they're ass. So,
But Seth, your boy, your beloved icon, hero, king, Damian Lillard, is on the Bucks, and you don't have any faith in him to even win a game without Giannis. What happened to you?
I mean, I still think Dame is really good.
Mm,
And I have respect for him, unlike you, because you're a heathen.
correct.
That being said, like Dame was really good last year, and the rest of his team around him in Portland was ass, and I wouldn't have picked Portland to win a playoff game. So I don't really think it's as much about Dame, even though I will admit, like he's declined over the last several years, as you would expect from someone his age. But I think it's more about the depth that you alluded to on the Bucks overall.
I'll allow it. I might pick Bucks in 7. I don't know. I feel like most people are going
But
to pick
why?
Pacers. Well, I feel like most people in our playoff picks are going to pick Pacers, so might be a little contrarian play. No matter
it's
who
It
still
wins.
doesn't
not a-
matter getting contrarian in the first round in that, anyways.
Well, I don't really have faith in the Bucks at all, so I
Oh,
think
there.
I'm going to pick
Why are you gonna pick them?
whoever wins this series. I'm picking them to lose against whoever wins the Knicks Sixers series. I already have that
Correct.
in my mind, so it
I'm
doesn't
pretty
really
sure that's
matter.
what anyone else is gonna do too, probably. So
Probably. All right, let's go to the Nuggets and the Lakers. A rematch of the greatest, most close sweep of all time, the Lakers will remind us, in last year's Western Conference Finals. The Nuggets, the biggest favorite so far of the series that are set, minus 310. Do the Lakers get a game this time, at the very least, in this matchup, Kyle?
if I remember what I picked correctly, I think I did pick them to win one game. But I mean, it's just an impossible task really to beat them over a 7-game series. Um, you know, uh, there's going to be probably one game where you get a flash in the pan and D'Lo goes 6 for 9 from 3 or something like that. AD has 25 and 15, and LeBron has a triple double and they win the game. But I can't expect them to do that enough to come close to winning the series. Jokic is a different animal in the regular season, but he's a different beast in the playoffs.
Is he ever the same animal?
And the same and a different beast? The fuck does that mean, Kobe Bryant? The greatest commercial of all time? It's gotta be up
Yes.
there.
Seth, if the Lakers shock the world and beat the Nuggets in the first round, where overseas might we find you the next day? And we'll be on a beach somewhere where no one can ever find you.
No, honestly, I wouldn't mind it because um
Easier
that
path for the Celtics because
they would
they're a
play
lock to make the
they would play the
championship.
Timberwolves in the next round, and then it would be even more satisfying to see the Minnesota team from whence the Lakers came defeated defeating the Lakers who relocated to Los Angeles. You know what I'm saying?
What
The
a
mental
gauntlet of a
gymnastics this guy goes through, I swear to God.
what a gauntlet of a route that Minnesota has to take to even make the conference championships.
I know
I
it's
know.
yeah. I mean, it's always going to be a gauntlet this year in the West, like no matter
That's
where you're
true, I
seated.
guess.
But I
Unless you're
guess
OKC.
yeah. But that
It's
is
a
my
gauntlet,
dream
though.
is that we'll see a Timberwolves Celtics NBA Finals, and then I could go to a game. But
There's no way that I mean, if the Lakers do somehow come out of this series, the problem is there's no way they beat the Wolves because Naz Reid turns into a completely different player and shoots like 60% from the field and 55% from three anytime they play. So what are you gonna do? You
That's not a
can't
completely
stop him.
different player. That's just Naz Reid, baby. Yeah, I'm picking Nuggets in 5, I think. Let's give them a game this year, okay? I
all
mean,
right.
they've earned
I'm
it.
with you.
This is the series I'm least interested in, but I'm still sneaky interested in it. Okay,
Isn't there more than one series left?
is there?
You're skipping the
Yeah.
1/8s, right? Because we don't know
Yeah.
them.
Well, we don't know two of the series.
We didn't
If you think of another one, I
we
didn't
didn't
hit
talk
that you
about
want to
Dallas
tell
and
me.
we didn't talk about Cleveland. That's
Oh,
two
you're right. You're
series.
right. Sorry, I forgot about Dallas because I did a great podcasting trick where it was higher, but we were talking about Bucks Pacers, so I skipped over it. And if I hadn't forgotten, you would have never known that, and it would have gone seamlessly. Because this is actually, I'm very interested in this one. The Clippers
I can't
and
wait
the
to hear
Mavs.
Kyle talk about this.
The trilogy. The Mavs are minus 125 favorites. Kyle's going to pick them and gloat about them despite loving James Harden and not having a soul. So
That's correct.
the real
for it.
the real question on the Clippers side, well, there's two main questions on the Clippers side. Number one, is Kawhi healthy? Seems like he's getting a shot in his knee and he's going to play. Okay, that doesn't sound, great. Number two question, does James Harden know he's allowed to score the basketball? We can't be sure. The Mavs on the other side come in red hot, no questions for them. Luke and Kyrie basically hold each other in a warm embrace every night, and then shows on the court. and PJ Washington, who I've always loved my entire life, and Daniel Gafford with the first or second most beautiful eyes in the league to Kelly Oubre have really helped on defense.
Ignoring the fact that you dropped PJ Washington.
Whoa, whoa. Kyle, tell us why you're picking the Mavs despite loving Harden and having no principles and becoming more and more like me every day.
I don't take any. I'm never closer to you. I stick to what I say. So,
Doesn't seem right.
yeah, I'm picking the Mavs. I mean, we've seen it what Luka Doncic is in the playoffs multiple years now. Clippers are lucky to have won those series against them in the past, and Luka didn't have the team that he has this year. That what he's been able to build alongside Kyrie, which is probably the best, least talked about season for Kyrie, I feel like, in his career, probably.
That's
Yeah,
great though
and
that we're not talking about it. That's a good
that's
sign.
true. That might be why he's been on the court, actually.
Yeah.
But they've built really what seems like the ideal team around two superstar guards who can score really at any level of the court. All three levels? I don't know. Either way.
I have a follow-up question for Kyle.
Yeah, hit me.
The question is, what was the exact moment when you gave up on James Harden and realized that Sam and I were right about him all along?
Whoever said I gave up on James Harden?
Well, if you haven't given up on him, then why wouldn't the Clippers win the series? If he is what you think he is, they should have plenty of firepower to take down the Mavericks.
I don't think they have plenty of I don't think they have enough firepower to take down the Mavericks.
Well, because
Luka's a
James
better
Harden's
player than
not
James
good.
Harden.
So
I
what
don't
do
think
they?
I ever said that James Harden was a better player than Luka ever.
So you think that's all it comes down to?
Yes, Luka versus James Harden. That's all this series is.
Interesting.
No, like I was just saying. I mean, it's the team that they've surrounded Luka with now. I mean, what's the best type of center to put next to Luka? Rim running center that does nothing other than pretty much dunk the ball off of his amazing assists. We have, like you said, PJ now. PJ is turned it around over the last month of the season. He was ice cold once they traded for him from three. He's hitting those shots now. He's been one of, if not their best defensive player since they brought him in. Obviously, Derek Jones Jr. has been very good for them also for the majority of the season, but I do think PJ, with his size, is just better all around to defend kind of any 1 through 5. But I don't
And yet the Clippers had a better record this year, and they have James Harden. So
the Clippers, yeah, I mean, sure they have a better record, but they also went on an insane stretch through the month of December and half of January, and that's completely fizzled out since then. This is similar to the Bucks, that I like, kind of to the Bucks, where they started off the season or early in the season, they were super hot and just got a tremendous lead on a majority of the conference. And then really the rest of the season didn't matter for the most part because they were essentially locked into, at this point, a top 4 seed, right? The Bucks essentially locked themselves into a top 2 or 3 seed, and then they had a losing record the rest of the way, and it didn't matter after right before the All-Star break when they
He's
brought
deflecting. He's getting
somehow
desperate. He's
he's
deflecting to the
maneuvering
Bucks.
us to be
Don't let
talking
him
about
do
the
it.
Bucks.
He's filibustering.
Hold
You
his
know, I
feet
might
to the
just-
fire.
I might just pick the Clippers. I gotta be honest with you, because are we
Why?
like everyone's picking the Mavs, everyone's all over the Mavs, everyone's all off the Clippers. They had that 26-5 run when, man, I was starting to think crazy
Kawhi's
thoughts.
not even healthy.
I know.
He's iffy to even touch the court in the first game.
Well, he can touch it. I mean, he's not allowed to touch
He's
the
barefoot.
court.
I don't know if he can bend down touch it with his hands.
You're right. I would like to hear more about Kawhi before making my final pick. It seems like he's playing game 1 with a knee injection. Like that news just came out tonight. But
You want to hear more about Kawhi? Well, he's 6'7", 225. He played college at San Diego State.
Any family I should know
32 years
about?
old.
Wife, kids?
Isn't his sister in jail?
That's a factor.
Alright.
I wonder if we're all sleeping on the Clippers and they're more like the 26-5. I don't really fully believe this. Let me just put it out there, okay? Is it possible? Could we open our minds to the possibility that the Clippers are more like the 26-5 team than they are the team that we saw down the stretch? Is it
Why though?
possible?
Why would they be more like that just in the flip of a switch when they haven't shown us that in the last 3 months?
Maybe the malaise of the regular season. They're like, let's just get to the playoffs. And even
James
as
Harden
I'm saying it,
doesn't
I
try
don't
very
really
hard.
believe it. Yeah, James Harden doesn't try. He discovers the new strip clubs in LA and that
You think
kind
he's
of
gonna
puts him
try hard?
off.
You guys think he's gonna try harder in the playoffs? After everything you've said over all these years, you think he's just gonna try harder in the playoffs now?
I can't believe the James Harden
How
is
is
the
this
third best
argument
player on the team.
flip-flops?
What is going on here?
So
I
you
can't
don't
believe-
think he's gonna try hard in the playoffs?
James Harden is the third
I
best
think he's
player on
gonna
the
try
team,
as
and you
hard
won't
as he
pick him.
normally tries.
Wow.
I don't even know who you are anymore. James Harden is the third best player on the team, and you won't even pick them when they're slight underdogs in the higher seed.
I have two futures parlays
Here it
that
comes.
rely on this game or this matchup.
Even your
I have-
parlays, they
I
go
have-
against James Harden.
They
He's not a
don't
true Harden
actually.
fan.
They
That's what
don't
we learned.
because I have the Knicks to win the East and the Dallas to win the West, and I also have Knicks to win the East and the Clippers to win the West.
So you just made a bunch of bets that you're going to lose.
I made two
just to put
long
your
shot
money away.
bets.
Although one of them was 40 cents. I saw him put it in. So really, what is he
I
gonna
had
spend that on?
absolutely, but it gives me back over 90. So cents,
Yeah,
that
I
is.
mean-
No, $90.
I'm not going to argue with anyone throwing away 40 cents.
If I were to
All
make
right.
that same bet today with 40 cents, I'd be getting back less than 30. Closing line value is immaculate.
That's like getting closing line value back on like an iced coffee or something. All right. Should we go to the final series that no one cares about?
I
Sure.
care.
This is only for the NBA nerds, the NBA diehards. It'll be on NBA TV. They're not going to have the guts to show this on prime time. It's the Magic versus the Cavs, baby. The 5-seeded Magic versus the 4 Cavs. The Cavs did the opposite of the Knicks. They were gutless, heartless, and they lost to the Charlotte Hornets, who played all of their centers at once to try to, or the Cavs played all their centers at once against the Hornets to try to lose that game. And they can't play them at dinner. It was around lunchtime, actually. And they got what their wish was. They got the Magic. They fell to the 4 seed so they could play the Magic in the first round. And I got to tell you, I hope the basketball gods punish them for that. All right. Now, the Cavs are a -195 favorite. Kyle, these games are all going to be 83-85 with 2 minutes left. Who do you think's coming out on top?
I want to pick the Magic, and I still might, but I lean Cavs right now.
Wow.
And it mainly just comes down to I think they definitely have more reliable 3-point shooting. And I think that's the difference maker in the series.
I feel like I
shocked
feel
by
the
that.
same way. I'm like kind of like
Wow.
I could probably pick the Cavs, but my heart says the Magic. Seth, I never know what to do with these scenarios where it seems like a player has 1 foot out the door in Donovan Mitchell. Does that make him just go on a tear to show off for other teams, or is that like creating a locker room imbalance that leads to them losing the first round?
I think it's more locker room imbalance. I mean, not that this is necessarily a factor in his decision making, but I don't think he really needs to prove much to other teams at this point. Like, teams are going to want him regardless. I think it's more analogous to the Clippers, and the Cavs had some stretches of the season where they looked really good. There was that stretch when Garland and Mobley were both injured, and then they made this run, and then they've just fizzled towards the end of the season and, barely clung on to that 4 seed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and right.
They didn't cling on to it. They jumped onto it
tanked
from
to
a
it.
ship that was sinking.
Yeah. And I just think the Magic defense is going to be too good and they can swallow up Cleveland's offense. So, I mean, like you said, it's going to be a defensive struggle. And I think the vibes are 10 times better in Orlando. So I'm going with them.
Are we maybe just a little too down on the Cavs because of what we saw last year in the playoffs, where the Knicks absolutely embarrassed them and out physicaled them and out rebounded them, and it was never close?
On the other hand, if that happens again, you're going to be kicking yourself and you're going to be saying, wow, why did I believe this team after they showed us exactly what they were last year?
Right. I will say I think the Knicks team last year was better than this Magic team.
That, and there's a lot more reliable shooters coming off of the bench and in
True.
the starting lineup for Cleveland this year.
No
True.
Strus, no Sam Merrill last year, no George Niang the minivan. They have added more shooting. I guess I'm gonna pick the Cavs. Ugh. I don't like it.
It's embarrassing for both
How
of
do you
you.
like this though? Darius Garland to lead the series in 3-pointers made at plus 550. They're gonna be locked down on Donnie.
I think that's a
They
reasonable
both
bet.
average essentially 8 threes a game. Just about 3 to 3.5 threes made per game. One hot game from Darius. Let him clamp down on Donnie. It might be all it takes. I'm sprinkling.
We're gonna put more than 40 cents on it.
That was an account that I had $0 in that I don't like the user interface on and refuse to use.
What are the odds on Jett Howard? Maybe this is his big breakout.
Is he even with the team?
I'm just kidding. He might be in the G League. I'm not sure. All right, well, we did it. We went over every series. We went over the play-in. I don't even know what more you'd ask of us. Do you guys have any final things you need to get off your chest about these NBA playoffs?
Yes, I do.
I knew you would.
Same sports book that I hate had another long shot parlay in.
Here we
Listen
go.
to this. I had Dallas to win the Southwest Conference. They did.
You mean division?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Did I say conference?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my bad. OKC to win the Northwest Division. They did. Then I had the Heat to win the Southeast. They lost by one game. They had the tiebreaker, so they just needed the tie in records and they would have had it. And then in the last week or the last 2 weeks of the season, they also lost to Charlotte and Washington. So fuck them. And then I had the Cavs to win
My eyes
the
are
Central
closing.
Division. All this to say, if these teams weren't complete ass, both of them in Miami and Cleveland, I'd be in Cabo right now doing this podcast.
So
It's almost as if when
you
you
weren't
make a
even
big
close
parlay,
to getting that parlay.
yeah, not even.
What are you
close.
talking about?
You got
Both
half
We're
of
2
it
legs
wrong.
off. Yeah,
Cleveland would have
I
won
understand
that
what
division
happened.
if they didn't tank the last game. They had the tiebreaker.
I understand.
And Miami, if they did not lose to the 2 worst teams in the NBA, also over the final 2 weeks of the regular season, they just need to win one of those 2 games.
That's how
They won
parlays
the
always are,
tiebreaker.
though. It's
I
like
understand
It's
that.
almost
things
as
that
if
are most
the
likely-
odds are so high because there's a lot of variance in multiple legs and they usually don't hit.
I don't think Kyle understands how betting works. We should probably
Let's talk about
Okay.
how Vegas works.
All right.
Well,
Do you
Kyle,
understand that
swimming
when
in
Vegas
Skolansky
sets the
bucks right
line?
now. How do you like that, dude?
listen,
Swimming
Kyle,
in Skolansky bucks.
you can join Seth and Cabo after the Bulls beat the Celtics in 4 and you hit a parlay. Okay?
I'll be in
I
Cabo.
had 2 parlays yesterday, dude.
Yeah, you're gonna be
Get
holding
off
your
my dick.
you're gonna be you were the one that brought it up. We're just reacting. You brought this
I don't
upon
think you
yourself.
realize how close this was and how great of a foresight it would have been if I hit.
Oh, we realize you went through an excruciating detail at this late hour.
You're welcome. Why don't you have a sip of your 6th drink right now?
I do need to pee, honestly. Should we just end
As long
it?
as you don't pee dishonestly.
I mean, should we just end this whole podcast and never get on these mics again?
Just gonna throw my computer out the window.
Kyle, why don't you send the listeners off with something to be in their mind's eye over the weekend?
Yeah, they could fuck themselves and so can you.